starting another recording. And this is those two statements here. Print text to screen and index equals 1. Those two statements are called variable declarations because a variable is declared, which is absolutely synonymous to variable is created at this very point. For example, C standard requires that variables are declared at the top of your C function, in our case method in Java. Java and C++ relax that restriction and let you declare variables anywhere you'd like. In fact, a lot of object-oriented scholars recommend to declare variables when you have a value to initialize, a meaningful value to initialize them with, and do not declare a variable before you can decide what it should be initialized with. So maybe at this point I know it should be initialized with the value 2, right? So part of this declaration, of course, the name of the variable, the part that contains equals to initializer, when you see an equal sign, which looks like an assignment, is called initializer. And over here, it could be any expression. Like it could be, compute and pass a whole bunch of parameters to that. R1, R2 is just a demonstration. But this could be another method to do a lot of number crunching and return back the result. We're going to get to that in a little while, but for now, I'm just using those simple things, just simple initializer. Anything after the equal sign is called initializer. If I do it this way, the variable is still created. The compiler will not it actually may complain. Let me try to compile this, just see what happens. Again, I can just press the run button, right? One or more, okay, I'm glad I did this. It says one or more projects compiled with errors. You can say run anyway, which really doesn't make sense, or you press cancel. Now, depending what version of NetBeans you were using before, sometimes it may fail to open the output statement. But if you truly need to see the problems, please remember to do this. You just go highlight the name of your project, right-click on it, and say build, right? It's simply saying, let's build this and see what the result is. And it tells me right here, again, first error, right here. See what it does? It tells me, here's my output. It tells me, error, variable print to screen might not have been initialized. So Java compiler resists using that variable because it has not been initialized. However, the error is not on this line. The error is on this line as soon as we try to use the variable. So it's a possibility that maybe we could have created the variable and then initialized it later. Then it should compile and run properly. Okay, but a strong advice is to not to to split the declaration of a variable initializer and do everything that's in your power to initialize it with something that makes sense. Okay, so it's just a safety reason, and even compiler may get unhappy because of your action if you fail to initialize. Question. Was a question there in the back? No? Okay. All right. So we'll say name of the variable, optional initializer, but very desirable initializer. Okay, because that should be. Even if you don't know what to initialize it with, just say 0 maybe, right? Because it's kind of like a a compromise, I guess, and safe way of doing things. But then also there's an int in front which stands for integer, which stands for the whole number, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this stands for data type. So in many object-oriented programming languages, declarations of variables, which means introduction of a variable into the scope, in my case, into the scope of this particular method main, so that it becomes available after that statement. is called a declaration. A declaration of a variable is, of course, is an executable statement because it has this initializer part, number one, and number two, it allocates memory, right? So if I try something like this, right? So when I look at this line of code, what I really see is some, some box in memory, which is, I excuse my, drawing here because it's just using the mouse. I may actually try to bring like a pen or something to make it easier. But this is what I think when I see this statement, int print text to string equals 0. I imagine that this is like some real piece of memory. I even tried to say it's a 3D thing because it's like real resource, right? And initially there is a 0 stored in it because it's being initialized like that, right? So more on this later. I guess we're really starting to run out of time. Let's switch back to our slide here. So, but the uniform, like I said, uniform format for declarations of variables in many popular programming languages is to specify the type of the variable. In our case, it was an integer. Then provide the variable name using proper style or naming convention for variables, and then specifying some initial value, which could be another variable or could be a hard-coded statement, or many possibilities exist here. Our next segment, which is not going to be happening today, but next time, is going to be dedicated to the data types. So we say that most of the popular object-oriented programming languages are strongly typed, meaning that all variables are designed to store particular types of data, like integer or floating point type, or maybe pointer to some interesting object in memory. Those are all different types. So we will discuss the types next week. Keep reading. I will post everything that I owe you on the website, right? The homeworks are posted. Try to keep up with the schedule. Next week, it's going to be the attendance verification, so make sure you submit something. Submit some homeworks. Make sure you complete your quizzes, because that's your real attendance. You see, I'm just curious who is in class, but I'm mostly curious how well you keep the schedule of submitted homeworks. So thank you very much. To be continued.